Hey there, I'm Tricia at Club Scrap. Welcome to the Plaid About You Page Kit Workshop. And remember, this is a special release. It's not sent to our members automatically. And the instructions for this can be found on our website under special releases. So again, this is Plaid About You. I'm gonna take all of the goodies that came in the box and set them aside. And I have the papers here on my trimmer base. And I've got a copy of the instructions as well as my accordion pocket file to help me stay organized. Now, if you don't yet have this, it's okay. Just maintain 4 separate piles for each double page spread we're going to be preparing for. And this just simply makes better use of your vertical space. So I'll take the lip of this, put it under my trimmer, and here I'm ready to sort into one of my 4 pockets, or you might be working with your piles. I have a little kit that helps you make that along with the video tutorial. If you're interested, let us know. Now here I'm going to sort the paper in the order that we'll use it. So let's just take that entire stack. I like to hold it in the crook of my arm here, and that way I can sort it very easily by looking at the top edge. And the first piece I want you to find is this light plaid print. Just take one of them, put it face down on your trimmer base, followed by the dark plaid print, just one of those as well. And then dig down for 1 sheet of the burgundy. You're gonna notice right away this has a lovely linen texture. Just 1 sheet of that. And then 1 sheet of navy. Here we go with the navy. That's called a laid finish. So pretty. Next up, 2 pieces of the dark green. That's very, very dark compared to the lighter that's in there. And it has more of a texture on one side. There it is. Okay, then 1 sheet of craft. So lovely. And 1 sheet of the white. And again, the white has a linen texture on one side. It's smooth on the other. And it doesn't really matter when you're trimming it, but I like to adhere it to my pages with the texture side facing up. For the Cutaparts from the back of your stack, I'm going to add this one that says "You are the pot of gold" at the end of my rainbow. And then the other Cutapart. The leprechauns made me do it. So that'll be next up on the plain side facing up. Next, I want you to find 2 light green plains, 1 navy. This gets easier as we run out of papers to choose from, right? Then the burgundy linen. How about the remaining light plaid print? Then a white. Lastly, the dark plaid print face down, followed by the craft. And that's everything in order. If I went too fast for you, there is a setting in your YouTube playbacks that you can slow me down. If you're newer to this, please don't be discouraged. A lot of our members here do this every month, and they find they save so much time following this method. And once they get the hang of it, life is so much easier. So just hang in there, slow me down if you need to, press pause as much as needed, and give it a couple of workshops, and you are going to be a pro at this technique. Now let's take the first sheet off the top of the stack. That's the light plaid. And with this guillotine style trimmer, of course, that is more efficient as well than anything. So if you're still using a slider, I recommend graduating to this bad boy. He's really a great trimmer, okay? Now let's trim this at 7, so nice and easy. Make sure the papers are level at the top, and then just find 7. Make sure it's inches and not centimeters. Okay, so 7. Before I slice, I will stabilize on that clear bar to keep the paper from moving around when the blade comes down. Stack up both of those pieces you just created and put them in pockets 7 and 8, or in your pile for layouts 7 and 8. When I do that, I kind of put my paper in at an angle so I can still see the number on the left. All right, now I'm going to bring in the sheet of dark plaid. It's kind of nice because it doesn't really matter how it goes into the trimmer. It's the same in every direction. And let's trim at 11 and 8. 8. Okay, now take this piece that's in the trimmer, rotate it so it's horizontal, and trim at 6. Kind of weird, I know. Now take these 2 pieces, place them in pocket 5 and 6, and then you have these longer, skinnier guys. Those could go in 1 and 2, again at that angle. Now we're at burgundy. Let's trim this at 6 1/4. I think this is the first time we haven't had a whole number. So make sure when you find your 6 inches, go left 1 column. And I love how this trimmer has the columns. Left 1 column from the 6 to grow the number to 6 1/4. Then rotate this piece so it's horizontal. We'll trim at 11 3/4, 8 1/2, and 4 1/4. One of these pieces you just made, that goes in 5 6, and then another one that fell that's the same size as the previous, that goes in 7 8. Then you have this narrow rectangle for pocket 1 and 2, and I regret to inform you, there is a little scrap here that we're not going to be using. All right, now this remaining strip here, we're going to trim this one at 11 1/4, 7 1/2, and 3 3/4. Gather up the 3 pieces that are the same and place them in pocket 3 and 4. Once again, there's a small scrap that we won't be using. I hope that's okay with you. You can find a home for it if you like. Moving on to navy, and this is the advantage to sorting our papers. It just makes everything go smoothly because our paper is all queued up and we have fewer errors as a result. And we're looking for 10 3/4. So again, go 3 columns to the left of the 10 to grow the number. 10 3/4, 9 1/2, and 6 1/4. Rotate the paper now so it's horizontal. We'll cut at 8 1/2 and 4 1/4. I'm making photo mats here. Stack up the 2 pieces that are the same. They're both 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. Those go in 5 6. And then we have this little rectangle here. We're going to trim at 6 and 3. Gather up the 2 rectangles, and they go in 7 and 8. There is a small scrap that we formed. Sorry about that. Set him aside. And then the next widest strip we'll cut at 11 and 6 3/4. Both of these pieces, this long skinny one and then this other larger one, 7 and 8. And this little guy, we're going to use it in pocket 5 and 6. 2 narrow strips remain, 7 and 8. All right, that finishes these 4 sketches on page 1 of your instructions. So now I'm going to turn to page 2 with the dark green is queued up next. Make sure you only take 1 sheet. You have 2 sitting there. Let's cut at 11, 10, and 5 3/4. 5 and 3 to the left, 5 3/4. Rotate. We'll trim at 11 1/4. We've done this series before. 7 1/2, 3 3/4. And you've made 3 pieces the same and a scrap here. So take the 3 pieces, those go in 1 and 2, and our scrap we can set aside. This one's nice and easy. We're just going to cut the strip in half at 6. And gather up both pieces that are the same, pocket 1 and 2. And then you have 2 strips, pocket 1 and 2 as well. I feel like a broken record. All right, now we're going to trim this one, this other green, at 11 1/4. So that's 1 column to the left of the 11. 10 1/2. 6 1/4. Now rotate. 11 3/4. Go at 8 1/2. 4 1/4. 2 more photo mats that are the same for 7 and 8. And then we're going to trim this little rectangle here at 4 1/2 and 2 1/4. So the piece that ended up in your trimmer base, just take that one and put it in pocket 5 and 6. Then you have 2 more, kind of a wider one and a skinnier one. They both go in 3 and 4. You've got a little scrap that fell off the end. This next piece, we're going to trim at 6 1/4. this rectangle that you just created is in your trimmer base, pocket 7 and 8. And the one that fell goes in 5 and 6. You have 2 strips left over, 2 of them. They both go in 5 and 6. And we're moving on to the craft. Trim this at 11 and a quarter, 10 and a half, and 6. This is fun and easy. Rotate and trim at 8 and 4. And gather up the 3 rectangles you made. And they all go in pocket 3 and 4. Then you have another strip here. We're going to do a series again. We've done this before. 11 and a quarter, 7 and a half, 3 and 3/4. All 3 of these rectangles that are the same, pocket 1 and 2. And then you have this little scrap that fell. It's not a scrap though. We're going to use it in pocket 5 and 6. And these narrow strips that are 12 inches long, those go in pocket 3 and 4. Next up, we are getting close, my friends. We are on the white, and make sure it's white on both sides. All right, 10 and a quarter is our first cut, and then 6 and a quarter. Rotate. First cut, 11 and 3/4. It's almost to 12. It's the column to the right of the 12. So 11 and 3/4, 8 and a half, and 4 and a quarter. You made 2 pieces the same. They go in pocket 3 and 4. And we're going to do a little trim on this at 5 and a half and 2 and 3/4. You made 2 smaller rectangles for pockets 7 and 8, and a couple of little scraps, this guy and this one. Sorry. This next strip, we'll trim it in half at 6, and both pieces go in 7 and 8. One long strip here for 7 and 8, and we have arrived at our Cutaparts. Okay, so newbies, pay attention. Everybody else, go. So remove paper outside of corner cutting guides. You see the little X marks the spot there in the corners. You see them on all 4 corners. So what we need to do is turn this slightly larger piece of paper into a 12 by 12. Now when I make this first cut, I usually go a little generous because sometimes it's hard to see at the bottom corner of my trimmer where I'm cutting. Now if you don't have a trimmer large enough, you might have to use a craft knife. I do that sometimes when I have really large press sheets to trim. And then I'm just gonna rotate now and bring that line. I can see it good at the top and bottom, looking at the right edge of that steel blade. Here, I'm gonna get this. And then one final shaving off this edge here. And by shaving, it does a pretty good job at this trimmer creating shavings. All right, now let's make sure before we start trimming these official 12 by 12 that that Celtic border is kind of on the right edge, and then You Are a Pot of Gold is on the left. And we'll cut at 11 and a quarter, 10 and a half, 10, 9 and a half, 8, 6 and a half, and 3 and a half. All right, now we're going to file these strip by strip. So this one doesn't need to be trimmed at all. It can just be placed in 3 and 4. Pick up the next strip. Make sure Lucky Me is on the right. We'll cut at 10 and a half and 6 and a half. If you want, you can always clip off the corners just by checking. What you want to do is try to match the margin of the white frame on the edges as well. You can use scissors, you can use a craft knife and cutting mat, or your trimmer during this process. And this goes in pockets 7 and 8, followed by Good Friend, also 7 and 8. Lucky Me goes in 3 and 4. That's so cute. And then these next 2 strips with the plaid on them, which I love, those go in 5 and 6. And then we have 2 really skinny guys. Those are for 3 and 4. And then you have the Celtic border strips 1 and 2. Okay, we're really close, my friends. We just have to trim the perimeter of this second sheet. And you know, you could always do that before class even starts and fast forward through this part of the video. I think I have the cut apart trimming marked as a chapter, so you could like literally skip the whole trim cut aparts part of the video and work at your pace with that. It's totally up to you how you want to use this video as a resource. And if you don't need my help at all with the trimming, you can just find the chapter that discusses how the pages are embellished. That might be kind of handy just to get some finishing tips or suggestions, or if you have a question about a particular page, you can just jump right to that spot in the video. As I'm editing, I write down every single chapter so I don't have to watch it again on YouTube to find out what they are. Okay, here we go. Now make sure your strips are here on the right, and we'll start at 11, and then 10, and 9.5, and 9. See, I'm not looking at the instructions. I'm looking at the art because it's pretty clear, and it's always going to be one of those rounded numbers, the nearest 1/4 inch, then to 7, and finally down to 4. Rotate, and we're going to cut this at 6. Now this frame here, that goes in 7 and 8, but here we have a series of different objects. And we have hearts and we have 4-leaf clovers. So I'm going to take scissors here and isolate the hearts. I'm not going to actually do the official fussy cutting. And you'll notice what's really nice is that the designer for Club Scrap, Jacqueline Carney, she puts these little shadows around, I'm just cutting out all the shapes, puts the shadows around the shape so you can cut along the shadow instead of the full detail of the shape. It really is a nice little system here. So I'm going to take all of the hearts, 3 of them, and those go in 7 and 8, and all of the clovers, these are 3-leafed clovers, they're going to go in 1 and 2. And then we have this sheet with some journaling prompts here. Make sure those are on the right. Cut at 10, 8, and 6. Okay, this goes in pocket 1 and 2. Never iron a 4-leaf clover. So cute. These you could clip the corners. I like Shenanigans and Malarkey. That's 3 and 4. And then one journaling prompt goes in 1 and 2, and the other in 5 and 6. So close here. All right, 10. Make sure your circles are on the right. 8, 6, and 3.5. Okay, 3.5. This goes in pocket 3 and 4. The smaller, when I count my blessings, I always count you. That's 5 and 6. And then all 3 circles, 5 and 6 as well. We have these really, really skinny strips for 5 and 6 too. And then the leprechauns made me do it. That's 7 and 8. That was your last cut and your last file. So everything's ready to go for our layout dry fit session. And basically that means we're not going to be using adhesive at this point. You can do that part of the process on your own. So I'm going to take the top sheet of our sorted paper. Oh, it's so heavy. You're not even going to believe it. It's like 110-pound cover weight. It's unbelievable. Slide it to the right of your work surface, and then this will be on the left. So you have your double page spread in front of you. This is the base for layout 7 and 8. So what I need you to do is turn to page 4 in your instructions, and there you're going to see layouts 7 and 8. So we will place pieces where they kind of go, not stick anything down. We're not going to do any embellishing officially. We're going to talk about it. And then we'll go to 5 and 6, 3 and 4, and 1 and 2. So when we're finished, layout 1 will be on top, and it'll be all ready for you to assemble. And then you can get out your adhesive and do everything else. So if you're working with your accordion pocket file, you'll need to empty pocket labeled 7 and 8, or find your pile that you labeled 7 and 8. And this is much easier than having to sort through all the cut pieces that you created, right? Oh, I think back to the days when I was teaching classes and doing that. Okay, so these larger plaid print pieces go on the outside edges. Now the 5-inch piece goes to the left, and the larger 7-inch piece goes to your right. Then you can look for some green photo mats. There are 3, but 2 of them will be placed here. And they're going to be nested with some white. Do you see how the white just nests right into it, frames it up beautifully? And then there's going to be, let's see, a really long, wide white strip. You can nest that with one of the navy strips. And then the printed cut apart strip that doesn't have any text on it. Then the other navy strip can go down here with the text on it. The leprechauns made me do it. I'm just looking at what I have in my hand here. So I've got two little rectangles. Those also have a nesting friend. And you know, if you've got a like one wider picture and you want to just stretch it over both, you can do that in the finishing process when you have your pictures ready. I do encourage you to stick everything down and work with the layout as it is, because man, it makes life go faster. Let's see. Here we have this beautiful sentiment, and I think it's the Irish blessing, right? And that's going to be placed here. And the 3 hearts are going to be trimmed and positioned there. This piece, you might have missed it, it nests with this one. And then this has a friend to nest with as well. So every cut has a purpose, right? Every cut has meaning. Then here we have these really fun wood shamrocks, woodcut shamrocks. I put one here and I put one down here. Now when you look at mine are gonna look different. I'm gonna show you why. Okay, so let's talk through these finished embellished pages. Page 8, I like to go backwards. So page 8, here we go. Everything's just glued down exactly. I used my favorite ETG adhesive, and it's very efficient in the mileage I get out of it. And here we have the that woodcut. Now you see it's green. How did that happen? I actually happen to have some darker green embossing powder, so I just put some embossing ink on it, sprinkled the powder, and heat set it to melt the powder, and it looks pretty cool. So I went with it on all 3 of them. You don't have to do that, of course. If you don't have or own or want to own any of that stuff, don't worry about it. Just put it on there in the craft color because it's pretty cool. Here I have the 3 little hearts. 2 are adhered directly to the page, and then this one I used our foam adhesive circles to make it pop a little bit. Once I nested this and clipped the corners of each layer of the tag, so that's the navy as well, I used my slot punch. That's this bad boy. This is a slot punch, and it puts a nice slot in that instantly turns this into a tag that I have a hanging hole all of a sudden. And even this 1-inch wide burgundy ribbon, oh, it's so pretty with the grosgrain edge. It's granulated, beautiful. Threaded it through that little hole I made with the slot punch, and then taped the ends to the back, and it even popped out of this a little bit too. So those are your finishing touches for layout 7 and 8. So now all I have to do is slide this over to the right. Okay, just that one green, light green sheet. You should see navy next. Pick that one up and slide it on top of the green. Now you have one burgundy and one green. I don't usually do this, but I thought the look was kind of cool with the plaid going on here. So emptying pocket 5 and 6. I'm going to begin with the plaid print. And what I'm shooting for is that it is the continuation. And I actually even used my grid ruler. When I adhered this, I made sure that, here's my ruler with the 0 center. I made sure it was centered on the page. So I actually measured it and made sure it was centered. I hope you know how to use a nice grid ruler like this. It really makes your scrapbooking easier. I do have a video, ruler basics, that you can learn more about using the ruler effectively in your scrapbooking. Now, let's see. We have these kind of formulaic the way I did the placement. So when I adhered this, this is what went onto the layout first. Just above it, about 1/8 of an inch, I added the green strip here, and I reflected it down over here because it's very symmetrical in a way. Then I nested it with this bad boy here. And then you have the second strip. You've got another Irish blessing, may the road rise up to meet you. So that I put about 1/4 of an inch under or beneath the edge of that plaid print, and the same thing reflects over on the right. So it's, again, balancing itself out. Now you got to do some different fun things. So I'm going to put a horizontal burgundy and a vertical green. And then I'm going to add the vertical navy and another friend for that to kind of cover up that corner. And then you have all these little pieces. So these, there you have these round circles. Now you can leave them square and they're still gonna look super cool. Or you can trim them with scissors, or you can use, if you have a thin die cut machine that you like, you can do that too. Now here, let me show you how I did this. I trimmed a V into the short edge of this craft piece, okay? And then I layered it on top of the blue. Now you see that this is way too long for the blue, it's okay. But I'm gonna kind of do something similar. I'm just gonna cut right to the center of this blue and add a little banner to that as well. Okay, so now I have a nested banner. And I just wanna make it the same length. You can use your trimmer or you could use scissors, whatever. And that's gonna be placed right here. Cool, right? We have some nesting we can do. So this green nests onto the tag. You can clip the corners of each before you nest them. Add your punch, or punch a hole or staple the ribbon. There will be ribbon. And there's a key charm, and I added the key with my favorite liquid glue, which is Club Scrap's Bookbinding Glue dispensed from a needle tip applicator. That works fabulously. Let's see, this goes right up here, kind of bridge that gap a little. Then finally down here, once these are placed, I added some of these tassels to these circles. Oh my goodness, so cute. Now, how do you add the tassels? You can glue them on with the same way I showed you, or you could use a brad. Now, I didn't include the brads in the kit. I didn't think to do it. I apologize. Most people have these if you've been crafting for a while, but my friend Joan, she's brand new to this. She might not have brads. That's okay. Joan can call me and borrow. I'll give her some brads. And they're readily, you can find them anywhere. And we've included them in past kits as well. So I used the brads to hang these. Isn't that adorable? So this was cut with a thin die. Again, you can leave them square. And then I just pierced through the paper with an awl. So we carry these as well. This is an awl. And I just pierced it through. I made sure I had like a cork board on the back side so that I wouldn't damage my table. And then I just threaded the brad onto the tassel and then split the ends on the back. Cool. And then the facing page here. Nothing too special. Here's my ribbon looped again around the tag. I love that. It just, I don't know, I feel like it just wraps it up so nice. Attach these with foam adhesive circles. This was attached, adhered with my bookbinding glue. Once it dries, that key's not going anywhere, which is cool. All right, so I'm gonna pick this page, slide it over, and then again, one more. And hopefully what you see there is what will match on the previous page, page 3. There's layouts 3 and 4. And guess what pocket we need to empty? Yep, 3 and 4. Okay, here we go. Nice. Everything's here, hopefully. And this page isn't too complicated to put together, which is nice. We're starting about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch from the left edge on that white. We gotta fill up some of this white here. And there should be some narrow border strips in here. Now you notice that I'm trying to distribute everything from my hand instead of the tabletop. I find that works pretty well, as long as you can get a grip on everything. It's just a little more efficient than picking up piece after piece off the table, if you know what I'm saying. If you're doing that, you might already know what I mean. Like, oh yeah, I can see why. Then 2 craft horizontal mats here. And they're gonna get nested with burgundy. This worked out really well. So 2 burgundy. Then 1 more of those sets over here, lower. And then these are tilted, just boom, boom. If you like things tilted or if you prefer them straight, however you wanna do it. 2 hearts, 1 soul is gonna go here after you clip the corners. And then there should be a really skinny piece of green for the Lucky Me to nest it. And I kind of tucked it behind there. And then I like Shenanigans and Malarkey for here. That's everything from the pocket, except for a few embellishments. Let's talk through that. Here, a simple ribbon trimmed into like a 2-inch length, folded in half. I stapled it. You could do your slot punch too, however you want to do it. Then the Lucky Me. Now, I want to just tell you a little mistake I made. So I glued this on with my bookbinding glue and I nudged it. Like I walked away and didn't realize I had moved it. So I have a little glue mark here, right? Oh, well, it dried clear. I'm just saying, you know, things like that happen. So make sure you keep it away from the cat and yourself. After you place the glue, just walk away. All right, here's my nested tag again with the slot punch. Wrap around with the plaid ribbon. So cute. Oh, and I think this is probably one of my favorites. Light green ribbon. Simply thread it through each end, one piece through each end of the double infinity charm. And then just tape it to the back of this before you attach it to your page, okay? There's another embossed shamrock or, you know, 4-leaf clover. So cute. And I think that's it for that double page spread. So cool. All right, now we are approaching the finish line. I love it. So this goes to the right. You know, I can do a lot of different accents. I love listening to them and mimicking them and trying to figure out what makes different dialects unique. There's one accent I can't do, and it is Irish. In fact, I did study a little bit when I was in high school. I played the role of Sharon in the musical Finian's Rainbow, and I had to learn an Irish accent for the role, and I did it, but man, it was really hard, and I don't have any idea how it works anymore, so I can't. But I think it's such a beautiful lilt. Okay, so we have a narrow 1-inch strip at the bottom, and then the wider of this plaid at the top, really covering up a lot of this beautiful craft, I might add, but oh well. And then 2 green nested with these 2 Celtic printed borders. And then there's going to be a series of 3 smaller green photo mats, and these will get spread across the remaining framed space we've created. So you can just see a little bit of that craft peeking out. It's really pretty. Now the burgundy should be skinny enough to be a perfect match for your title here. That's why I love those Cutaparts. Then 2 horizontal green here, and then a series of those 3. Now the height of these pieces is 3 3/4. The width of these is 3 3/4, and you can see how we can make a row with them across a 12 by 12 page with perfect spacing in between. So that's why we did that series of measurements repeatedly. We trimmed out 11 1/4, 7 1/2, 3 3/4 to create this. So if you don't want to always follow my instructions, but you want to do something like that, take a note of those 3 measurements, 11 1/4, 7 1/2, 3 3/4, and then you can do that for yourself. All right, so this, after it's fussy cut, we're going to do the large and the medium, and the small I added right over here with this guy. Again, that's it for my trimmed pieces. I got a couple of tips here for remaining items. Now this again was the plaid ribbon folded in half and stapled. I adhered the cute little heart, and I did walk away this time, kept it safe while it dried, and then just one sweet little clover there. Now on the facing page, here's a tip. Run the entire length of the page with ribbon after you thread it onto this. Oh, isn't that pretty? And I just taped the ends around to the back. I actually had a continuous glue line roll, and I used that to kind of keep everything in place, so it's really sturdy on there. For the top side of the page, I added the larger clover directly to the paper, and then foam adhesive with that one, and added my final plaid wrapped heart-shaped button. It's so cute. Oh, I just love this kit. It's really going to be fun. You know, I haven't picked out what I want to use for this. I would really like to just go to Ireland. Do you think I could do that? Like just go to Ireland quick so I can use these pages? Otherwise, any St. Patrick's Day celebrations you might participate in, or maybe you just have colors that match. Maybe you wore your plaid shirt to the family gathering, or maybe your whole family wore buffalo plaid on Christmas. I'm sure you can find something with the colors that work with this and even with the theme, or even if not, your pages are still gonna look great. I think this would be wonderful for a snowmobile trip, actually, because the colors really work. Either way, hope you liked the workshop. Hope you learned something new in the process. If this is your first time, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Think about a membership to Club Scrap if you're not already a member. Be sure to join us, but at the very least, give me a like here at the bottom of the screen, and then hit subscribe so you don't miss any more Club Scrap YouTube videos. I'll see you in the next one.